Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Makayla and today we are doing a spoiler-free reading wrap-up and review of the 7 books that I read in the month of November. We have a lot to chat about, so we are not going to mess around and we are going to jump right into it. So the breakdown, I read 6 physical books and 1 book on my Kindle. And all of them were pretty well rated. November was just kind of an interesting reading month for me. I was enjoying the books that I was reading. However, I just really wasn't in a reading mood and mindset. I was just really busy with semester, had a lot going on. So I wasn't very motivated to read. So I was kind of in like a mini slump, but I still enjoyed all the books I read. So it's kind of interesting. I'll talk about a lot of it as we go through, but we're going to start off with the first book I finished this month, and that was The Shining by Stephen King. I finished this like November 2nd. I read pretty much all of it in October, but I didn't officially finish it until November, so it gets put on the November list. This is the 3rd Stephen King book that I have read. It is arguably one of his most famous works, and I was excited to give it a try. I do enjoy Stephen King's writing. I think his writing lends really well to listening on audiobook, and that's what I did for a good amount of this book. If you don't know what it's about, you're following Jack Torrance and his family, where he has become the new caretaker for the Overlook Hotel in Colorado in the off-season. Well, weird things happen in these off-season at the Overlook Hotel. All the caretakers end up going crazy, essentially, and hence same thing happens with Jack and his family, and that's kind of the storyline you follow. The book was pretty good. I feel like it dragged on a little bit, but I did enjoy it. I think it's a fun classic to be able to say that I have read. I still haven't watched the movie. I want to watch the movie, but I don't have any of the streaming services that it is actually available on, which really sucks. Streaming services are really frustrating. This is a side note, but it is so hard to find a streaming service that just has like consistently good things, which I know is the point. They want you to spend more money on getting more subscriptions, but it's just really frustrating. Anyways, I ended up giving this one 4 stars. It wasn't my favorite book, but I think it was a good classic. It was a good horror novel for the end of spooky season, and like I said, I did enjoy it. The next book that I picked up this month was A Little Life by Hanya Y. I don't know how to say the last name, and I don't really want to butcher it, so I'm just saying Y. If you haven't heard about this book, it is following the story of 4 college classmates and just their lives and all the things that happened to them. And it is a very hard read. It's very depressing. It talks about a lot of really triggering topics. Please make sure you check trigger warnings before reading this and just go in with a good mindset. This book is not for everyone. I don't know if I feel comfortable recommending it to anyone. To be honest, I'm not even giving it a rating in this video because it doesn't feel right recommending it, because this is such an emotionally wrecking story and just so heartbreaking to read that I just, in good conscience, can't recommend it to anybody. There are flaws in this book that really frustrated me, but I also did enjoy the prose, which is kind of what you'll hear a lot of people say. I think the writing was really pretty. However, I think some of the topics that were talked about and discussed weren't talked about in a very good way. I know this was supposed to be just a realistic story of how bad life can be sometimes, and all the things that happen in this book can really happen to people. I'm not really going to go that much further. I contemplated making like a full review video where I discussed all my thoughts on this book, but I just really can't. Yeah, I actually originally picked this up in January of this year. Had to put it back down after I got about 20% in because I just wasn't in the mindset to be able to read it. I picked it back up this month. I listened to majority of it on audiobook, which made it possibly even more heartbreaking. It is a very long book. It's over a little close to 800 pages, and it's just deep. It's hard to get through. If you want to pick it up, please check trigger warnings. Go in knowing that there's going to be hard topics discussed. Take care of yourself mentally. If you need to stop reading, take a break, do it. But like I said, in good conscience, I'm not going to recommend or rate this book, but I did read this month. Moving on to a little bit of a lighter note, the next book that I read this month was Phantasma by Kaylee Smith. I was really excited about this book. I got it from my Book of the Month subscription, and I was really excited. I've been seeing a lot of people talk about it, and it was kind of perfect for what I was needing. This is what I picked up after I finished A Little Life, so I just kind of wanted something not as serious, just a general, normal fiction, to really break myself out of that depression that book kind of caused. And this was perfect. It's a fantasy romance, not too serious, and I really enjoyed it. I ate up the story. I think it was just a lot of fun. You're following the 9 stages of hell in this competition, where if you win, you get granted a wish. Our main character, what was her name? Ophelia enters the game trying to get that wish and also looking for her sister, and she ends up finding one of the workers, and they spark up a little romance, and it's about trying to win the game but not losing yourself at the same time. Like I said, perfect little fantasy romance. I would recommend it if you like just not very, very serious fantasy world building, but you just want a good like fantasy magical romance. I would highly recommend checking it out. I enjoyed it. I ended up giving it 4.5 stars. The only reason I knocked it down a star is I felt like it was a little predictable. I did predict quite of the stuff that happened, but overall, I enjoyed it. I think it was perfect for what I was needing, because I needed to get broke out of my funk that I was in after I finished this. So this did the trick. The next book that I read this month was on my Kindle, which is right here, and that was The Mistake by Elle Kennedy. This is the second book in the Off-Campus series. This, again, I really just needed a lighthearted read that was not serious, just to get back in good reading mood, and this was perfect. Like I said, it's the second book in the Off-Campus series. I gave it 4 stars. It's a silly little college romance, and just perfect for what I was wanting. Enough said. I think that series, if you're just wanting silly romance and nothing serious, I would highly recommend that series. I think it's perfect. Yeah, so that's what I picked up. Like I said, I gave it 4 stars, and it helped me get out of my reading slump a little bit, which the next few books were featured in that getting out of my reading slump video, and that was like the first book that I read in it. The next book that I read this month is If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio, which this book, I was really sad because I enjoyed the story and the writing so much. However, I was just kind of in that reading funk, reading slump mood to where I just couldn't get myself motivated to read. But every time I was reading the book, I was really enjoying it. I absolutely loved the Shakespearean aspects to it. It's about a group of actors that are at this conservatory, and things turn deadly and really serious between competition and all of this type of stuff. I really enjoyed it, especially if you're a theater kid that turned reader. I would recommend this. I loved the theater aspects of this book. And like I said, I was so disappointed that I just wasn't motivated to read because I really loved the story. Maybe at some point I will reread the book and maybe I will up my rating because I'm kind of out of my reading slump, but I did not give this one as high of a rating as I was hoping because I was just kind of in a slump. So I rated this one 4 stars. Again, I do want to reread this at some point and maybe it'll increase my rating, but I did enjoy it. I would recommend it. It's kind of a dark academia setting. There is a lot of Shakespearean writing in it, so a lot of Shakespearean quotes from the plays and dialogue. So if you're not a big Shakespeare fan, maybe this book will not be for you, but it was for me. I was a theater kid in high school. I absolutely love Shakespeare. So this was the next book that I read this month. Now, moving on to the last 2 books that I read in the month of November. These officially broke me out of my reading slump. I binged these 2 books in about 5 days total. I absolutely loved them. That is One Dark Window and Two Twisted Crowns by Rachel Gillig. It is the Shepherd King duology, and I absolutely ate these up. They are just such an atmospheric fantasy read. Notice I said fantasy, not fantasy romance. I think that is a common misconception that some people have going into these books. Romance is just a subplot. It is heavily focused on the magic system and the fantasy of the world, but there are little romance aspects thrown into there. So don't go in with the expectations that it's gonna be like a fantasy romance, like Fourth Wing, Powerless, all of those types of series, because it is not. However, go in appreciating that there is a beautifully constructed magic system within these books, and just the atmosphere that these books create. I think it would be perfect to read in like a cold, gloomy fall/winter day, because these are so atmospheric. I absolutely loved them. I ate them up. I was saving One Dark Window specifically to start in the fall, because I had watched another person's video and they had said that same thing of save it for the fall time because they are so atmospheric, and I'm so glad I did, because it was a little chilly and gloomy outside and I just ate them up. Like I said, I really appreciated the magic system, and I absolutely loved it. I guess I did. So that does wrap up the 7 books that I read in the month of November. It was a pretty good reading month. Like I said, I was really, really busy. So to be able to read all of these books, actually, I'm pretty proud of myself. Especially a lot of these books are on the little bit of the longer side. I mean, A Little Life is like 800 pages. This was like 600. I think this is like 400. These are both... This one's like 300 and I think this one's 400 something. So I'm actually really proud. I read some hefty books this month. I'm proud of myself, and I'm really excited because December semester is about to end. I'm going to have a lot more time to read, and I'm planning on reading a lot of like holiday books in December. So I'm really, really excited. I'm glad I got a lot of big TBR books off of my physical TBR. I read them. So I've had A Little Life, One Dark Window, and If We Were Villains on my TBR for a long time. I've been kind of saving them, so I'm really glad I finally got those off. And I read some new releases that I really, really liked as well. And yeah, I just had a great reading month. I love reading, and I love sharing my reading journey with you. If you've read any of these books, let me know down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!